Robert, how have you benefited personally from having a teaching role?
I think that it keeps you sharp and it keeps you up to date. Working with young people keeps your feet on the floor, but working academically in the law means you have to know where the law has changed, and that helps you in practice.
It's no longer conveyancing as such that you're teaching, is it? How has that changed?
Conveyancing, as originally taught, was the law of deeds. But it has now been separated out with registration of title. Title examination is not what it was. Missives are more contractual in nature. And so bits of what was conveyancing are disseminated to property law, contract law, succession law, and of course a lot of the practice of conveyancing is taught now in the diploma.
Would you say that the statutory changes have made the study and the practice of property law easier or more difficult?
I suspect more difficult, not because of any particular problems with the statutes themselves, but we now work within a statutory framework, and gone are the days when solicitors would make value judgments on a title and say, I'll accept this, but I won't accept that. Much of what solicitors do nowadays is advising clients of the risks with a view to covering their own back as much as giving advice.
How beneficial has the Scottish Parliament been to being able to reform the law?
Very beneficial. I don't think it's an exaggeration to say that without the Scottish Parliament and its devolved powers, we would not have had the feudal abolition legislation, the title conditions legislation, the tenements legislation, the long leases legislation, far less a complete reform of the land registration legislation.
And you've had a personal input to many of these acts yourself, haven't you?
Yes, I was on the advisory committees set up by the Scottish Law Commission for all of these pieces of legislation. It's rewarding, I suppose, to see legislation born in that way.
And has that been the highlight of your career as an academic?
Yes, I think the involvement of legislation and law reform sits very easily with teaching, because you're actually teaching things that are changing as you speak.